We started a car storage business with over 500 vehicles in our care, starting with just one car, this car. This car and this business all started from this one cog. 14 years old, on the farm, had a Land Rover, and one day learned to drive in it, and one day the gearbox went bang. Don't think it was my fault. I then decided, well, the whole point of this Land Rover is to learn from, and it was a bit like a big Meccano set. So someone said to me, well, why don't you just try fixing it? Why don't you undo some bolts? And I got pointed in the right direction. Some over guidance looking over my shoulder saying, undo these bolts, now come and get me. Undo those bolts, come and get me. And eventually I took the gearbox out, stripped it down into hundreds of pieces. I remember being quite worried at this point. Found the offending item, the broken gear. So this is reverse idler gear, and it had stripped all its teeth. Ordered a new gear, put it in, put it all back together again like a big Meccano set, and put it back in the Land Rover. And when I turned the key and tried it, it worked. It was such a buzz that I had to do something else. The next something else was this car. So I built this car when I was a teenager as a bit of a test of myself, but also to pick up the skills and learn how to fabricate, weld, wire, paint. I look at it now and I'm a bit amazed sort of what I managed to achieve, and probably how did I have the time to do that. But of course you realise that when you're a bit older that perhaps you should listen to your teachers a bit more when you're at school. Anyway, started this car when I was 14 years old. Spent about 5 years building it. Went to quite a sporty school, which had good workshops, but soon worked out that if I bunked off sport, no one missed me. So I went to the workshop instead, and I spent many an hour on a lathe, machining something, fabricating something, welding something. And yeah, sure, look, I was lucky enough to have good teachers around me, and it was a learning exercise to how to fabricate, weld, and they would point me in the right direction. I used a MGB as a donor car, and then the Morgan factory brochure and the scale model to build the car using some Morgan panels, but an MGB for the running components, and then reverse engineered it, and here it is today. When I finished it, which would have been around the year 2000, I kept it in a workshop that we had as family, and it just wasn't the right environment. It was a little bit dusty. The car would maybe pick up the odd little chip. And I think the thing that sticks in my mind the most was I used to save up money I'd earned, buy tools, as you do as a bit of a car nut. And my dad would go and borrow them, and of course they had a one-way ticket. I'd never see them again, or I'd find them somewhere. So kind of the light bulb moment of creating somewhere better to keep my car that I spent many hours building, and so created that space. And it was a hugely satisfying feeling having the key to the padlock on the door, knowing that nobody else had the other key. My toolbox was in there next to the car. Car was on trickle charge, and I remember, I suppose being my baby, really researching, knowing admittedly nothing about storage back then, years of 2000 or so. It was probably 2002-ish. And I knew nothing about storage. So of course I would research what is the best way. And I read about dehumidifiers, and then the battery chargers. I'd research what was out there. And I would say around that time, C-Tech were established, but fairly new to the market. Auto Express and similar were probably doing some reviews and came out on top, and were very early provider to offer automatic battery charging, so charger would self-regulate. Fast forward a little bit more, we are probably at year 2004, and I thought, well, why don't I offer to others what I'm doing for my car? Maybe there's other people that haven't got a garage, or maybe two cars and one garage. And sure enough, there was a guy locally who had one garage and a Mark II Coombs jack and a Series 1 E-Type. Got in touch, came down and put the E-Type with me for the winter. And I simply looked after that car just how I looked after my Morgan. He would come pick it up in the spring, and I would I'd looked after it just like mine. So when it was in clean conditions anyway, but prior to handover, I'd black the tyres, polish it, clean the glass, make sure it's absolutely pristine. And I'll never forget his comment. He said, wow, I didn't expect the car to be this clean or this good. And I was like, wow, okay, that's kind of how I looked after my car. Well, an exciting thing about that is that he then said, book me in for next winter. So sure enough, car came back in the next winter. And then the following spring, the same thing happened. But he then said, can I actually leave the car with you all the year round? And when it's a sunny day, give you a call to come and use the car. And well, that's then the rest, as they say, is history. It was a snowball effect where we had other people like him, expats getting jobs posted abroad for a couple of years, who they'd spent a long time looking for the right car or a sentimental car. And in parallel to whilst this was clearly not a salary paying job and wasn't going to pay enough to keep me fed and watered, I in a weird kind of way, with my engineering background and fastidious nature, found myself working in the world of Formula One. And I was working alongside the Ferrari Formula One team for 5 years, running the business in the weekends and evenings. And I suppose subconsciously injected more OCD and obsessive nature into the presentation and straight lines and a bit of that Formula One side into the business. It got to the stage where I was quite busy and I had this difficult decision. Do I turn my hobby into a business? Is it a business? I don't know. Probably had 30 cars in storage at that stage, some winter, some all the time. And anyway, made the jump, thought, right, I'm going to say goodbye to the world of Formula One, which was quite a tough decision. Probably took about 12 months deciding whether to hand my notice in or not. Every day, one day decided to, end of the season. And that was in 2009, came into it full time. And all I can say is that from the moment that I gave Windrush my full-time attention, the business just grew exponentially, and word of mouth, recommendation, repeat business. Very proud to say where we are today with over 500 cars across 2 locations, and all to the same standard, one standard, the Windrush way.